When we do start with our labs in this video, the subnet I'm going to use is the 2001.1111.2222.0001 subnet. Now, before we do that though, we have to enable IP version 6 routing, and there's a good chance we have to do it twice. And a good way to remember this is IP version 6 is so nice you have to enable it twice. Isn't that great? It's the best I could come up with. Anyway, no extra charge. We don't think twice about using version 4 routing on a Cisco router because it's on by default. You sit down and you just start knocking out your configs, you're ready to go. But with version 6, you need to check twice whether it's enabled, once at the global level and once at the interface level. You need to enable IP version 6 routing globally with the IPv6 Unicast routing command. You'll also need to enable it on the interface level, but you're actually doing that when you put the IP address on the interface. And it's simply IPv6 address followed by the IPv6 address itself. Now, there are a couple of different ways to get that IPv6 address itself part done. And the first way we're going to do it is doing it manually. And you're thinking, great, 128 bits. But thankfully, using zero compression and leading zero compression, we can compress this quite a bit. Also, just a quick note here, for the IP version 6 sections, what I've done is left the configs on the board. I tend to take them out in the other ones because we're on the live equipment. I don't want you to think we're not going to be on the live equipment here because we are going to be, but I also think it helps you a little more to see these commands for IPv6 as we go along. So thankfully, we can do some compression here. And you're going to see me do that in just a moment. If you haven't already peeked at what the address is, you can go ahead and practice your compression there as well. And this is the router we're going to use, and as you can see, there's nothing unusual configured on it, and that's really it. So let me just move that bar just a bit. And let's go back to that address. Let's compress this address. What can we do here? We're going from left to right. We can't really do anything with the first 3 blocks, but that 4th block we can use leading zero compression on and knock that down just to a 1. Then we've got 3 consecutive blocks of zeros after that. So I can knock that down using 2 colons, a set of colons. I'm going to use my zero compression there. And then my leading zero compression on this final block is going to just leave a 1. So in essence, what I'm doing here is using subnet 1 of that global routing prefix, and I'm using the first available address out of all that, which would be 15 zeros followed by a 1. So as you can see, we got a pretty good number of host addresses here as well. So let's go ahead and get that started, and then we'll look at a couple of verification commands as well, because we're going to verify the heck out of this. First off, move that just a bit, thank you. Easy to forget, so don't you forget it, IPv6 Unicast routing. Now let's go to the interface, and it's IPv6 address, followed by a couple of different options, most of which we're going to look at in this course, and we're going to start there with the prefix. Just a word here too, not really of warning, but just to be kind to yourself when you start using all these version 6 commands. One of the hardest things to get used to is remembering to put the v6 in, because you're using so many commands that are really from version 4. You know, when we want to see the version 6 information on an interface, we're not going to run, you know, show interface, etc. We're going to run show IPv6 interface, etc. With OSPF, pardon me, with OSPF, when we're configuring that later, we will be putting v6 into a lot of OSPF commands that we've already used. So just be kind to yourself. Don't get angry and say, oh, I can't believe I can't remember this. It does come with more practice. So IPv6, we're going to put that address in, and it was 2001, 2, then 1, then zero compression brought us all the way down to the last block, and with leading zero compression, that's just a 1. Now let me show you a slight little gotcha here. See that? That's really annoying. And I swear there was an iOS version that let us leave that space in there at one point, but apparently there isn't anymore. So just go ahead and get used to putting your slash attached to the address. Don't leave a space, because you can look at that and say, well, you know, what do you mean invalid input? That's how you do it. Well, Actually, it isn't. You need to leave no space there. Also, always remember to do a no shut, because while you're concentrating on all your IP version 6 commands, you can leave out the fundamentals. And if that interface is shut, you're going to get some odd readings here when we do the show IP interface commands. So right now, it looks like it was open already, so that's fine with me. 6 interface, fast 00. And that's show IPv6 interface fast 00. And we can see that it's up and up. We're always interested in that. And going from top to bottom, it's going to tell you that IP version 6 is enabled. There's something here called a link local address, which we will talk about next. But notice that we didn't configure anything for that, right? We just put IP version 6 address and put in our global unicast address. And you can see that address is right here. It's going to give you the address here, and that's exactly what we put in, right? 2001, 111, 2222, 1, 2 colons, then a 1. And it's also going to show you what the subnet is. Now, we also seem to have joined some groups without knowing it. We'll have to come back to that too. We've joined some groups without knowing it. Also notice going down, some ICMP messages, that kind of thing. Something called a NUD. This is for neighbor discovery, actually. We're going to talk about that plenty in this section of the course. And something called DAD. I know I give you guys some DAD lectures once in a while, but I mean like parental DAD. We're going to have to talk about this DAD later. So there's a lot going on here in this particular command. And let's go to show IP version 6 interface brief. That's another good one. And boy, when they say brief, they mean brief. This is all we're going to get. You're going to get your interfaces, which ones are up and up or whatever their status is. Of course, we know they're administratively down by default. And we've got 2 addresses listed here for fast Ethernet 0/0, but you'll also notice that it doesn't tell us which address is which. So it would probably be a good idea for your exam to know that that top address is the link local address, and that bottom one is our global unicast address. But again, a couple of great verification commands to get you started here. Show IPv6 interface, and then show IPv6 interface just followed by brief. And again, when they say brief, they absolutely mean it. So again, a lot of that output's familiar. I've got the same exact thing on the screen. Again, the brief information you get from show IP version 6. And about that link local address, that is the next important topic. We know what a global unicast address is. We've configured one now, and we're going to look at other ways to do so through the rest of the version 6 material. But this link local address sounds a little odd. Sounds like a newcomer to me. We're going to check that out on the very next video. I'll see you there.